Good afternoon. My name is Hoih, and my topic is how to save a dying culture in Illinois. I'll be leading you through this roadmap. Initially, I will talk about the research question, and then the significance, method, argument, and finally the conclusion. So what is my research question? My research question is, how will the use of gamification help the preservation of the Zomi language? Which my hypothesis states that the utilization of gamification will help with the preservation of the Zomi language to a high extent. So why did I choose this topic? Initially, when discussing the topics that we wanted to do in the beginning of the process, I thought about immigration and how that applies to assimilation, more specifically Americanization, but I realized that instead of focusing on the problem, I wanted to talk more about solutions, and in this case, the app. So what exactly is the problem? The problem is, as stated by Stephen Warren, associated with the Australian University, found that over 6,000 plus languages are dying. And this connects to phonemes, and phonemes are basically the component of the word that kind of makes it up. So the last letter of the word of tab and tap changes the whole definition. And in this study by the University of Bristol found that individuals who had prior exposure to their native language during the adolescent years were more fluent during the adult years as they relearned the language compared to individuals who were just now learning the language. And so we can conclude that adolescence is the primal time to work on learning or relearning a language. So what are some solutions that have been posed? The first one is the Native American Language Act in 1990, which promoted the practice and development of the Native American languages through federally funded programs. And along with in Ireland, we can see that they utilize bilingual signage, which means throughout the roads, as you go outside, they use both the Irish language and the English language to kind of solidify their language in the country. And so they also implement Irish learning schools as part to combat this problem. And John Bell, who is associated with having degrees in human geography, states that language is not just a form of communication, but also a part of one's cultural identity. So why don't we rely on government policies or the government? This is because the Zomi population is part of a larger group known as the Burmese people who reside in Myanmar, Burma, and they reside mostly in the mountainous terrains, and they are considered to be a smaller population and thus more minor for the government to interfere in. And so my solution proposes gamification. So what is gamification? Gamification is the utilization of gaming methods such as scores, leadership boards, and progress checks in a non-gaming environment to provide further success in that field. And in this study to promote gamification, in the Guion University of Medical Sciences had 64 students split into two groups, one of them having the gamified version of the problems and questions, and the other not having it, the control group, and through which they found that individuals in the gamification section had a more positive attitude and had better progress in the said problems. And so a prime example would be Duolingo, which has over 500 million users as of 2020, stated by Von An, the founder of Duolingo, and he accredits his success to two major things: crowdsourcing, meaning the utilization of different professions such as professional linguists and volunteers during the beginning of his app, along with his aesthetics of the game itself, with very round characteristics and characters such as the owl Duolingo. And so this leads me to my method or my creation process. And so my paper is a creation paper, qualitative, quantitative research, and also a longitudinal study. And so before the premise of the game, I utilized a text messaging platform known as Upwork, and in 2013 it was first known as Elance Odesk, but further rebranded in 2015 as Upwork. And it basically gives you two options. One is the hourly login sheet, and it helps you connect with developers, coders, or freelancers. And my developer for this project was Bansi Pipalia, and she resides in India, and she's accredited to have 8+ years of Unity game development. And her rates started at 15 an hour, and my total time with the project was around 15 hours. So pre-game, why a prototype first? So I didn't decide to use a full-blown game just yet because through discussion with teachers, I found that I had to start small and see what could go right and what could go wrong, and through that use it for the bigger game in the end. And so before the game, I had to ensure the audio as heard in the game is the voice of my mom, and body part terms along with the help of my mom's translations. And first I had to get the DUNS number, D-U-N-S number, which towards the end didn't provide to be very useful, but was still a major part of the process. And I also had to apply to the Apple Developers Program, which allowed me to let it be accessible to the App Store and thus the users. And before anyone would play the game, I had to take consent forms allowing both the population groups of the 2 to 8-year-olds and the high schoolers for consent. And this spanned from August 2023 to January 2024. And so this is the consent form, and it basically discusses what I was going to do and how they were going to partake in the survey along with the pre-diagnostic test, and it shows both the English version and the Zomi version for the parents of the children. So the pre-diagnostic test, which was basically composed of 39 body part terms, and as seen in this image, it starts off with a question saying name this body part, and then shows an image of the said body part. And in this case, it's the ring finger, or in the Zomi language, minosum, and it gives you 4 other options. The first one being correct, and then the second one being midthumb for eye, and lay meaning tongue, and then beyond meaning cheeks. And so it allowed them to choose one that they thought was right, and then the other part of the multiple choice was the same format essentially, but instead of having multiple choice answers, they had to manually type in what they thought the body part term was. And this is the list of terms that I used, and it is just words like stomach, tongue, lay, or teeth, ha, and etc. And so this leads us to the game itself. And so the game is just like any other app or any icon, and as you can see, it's called Zolingo. And at the top, you can also see the app Upwork, the platform I used to contact the developer. And when they click that icon, they're followed up with the homepage of the app showing a graphical image of students and a background of clouds and sunny sky. And the background also has music on it, like piano music. And once they click play, they are shown to the next screen, which is very similar to the pre-diagnostic test, having guess the body part, shows the picture, and then has 4 options. But instead this time, when they click the right answer, it turns green and the audio comes out. And in this case, it was my mom that said the words. And in the latter, if they got it wrong, it would pop up as red, the answer they chose, and then the right answer would turn green, and the audio for this would be like nuh-uh or no. And after they complete the first 10 rounds of words, they're shown the results, the right answers, and the amount of wrong answers they got. So the data analysis. My initial population group was 2 to 8-year-olds, and I found that through the pre-diagnostic test that their results were a little skewed because their results popped up as 30 out of 39 or 32 out of 39, which was way too high for what I needed, and it kind of took out the reason for the game itself. And so I had to change the population group to high school students who had never spoken the language before. And although they took the pre-diagnostic survey, they also had to take the game itself because it was a longitudinal study, and unfortunately there wasn't enough participants in that section. And thus my paper became inconclusive. And so I use this term very loosely because it led me to 2 major conclusions. One being, because of the increased competition, the prototype needed to be more visually engaging and had to have longer phrases or words for the students and the high school students to remain engaged. And M. Bergen, with a master's in managerial and decision economics, states that language learning in the whole educational technology sector is competitive. Consumers have many alternatives. Leading me to my limitations and implications. One of them was the time zone difference between me and the developer, Bansi. Because she was in India, when it was daytime, it was nighttime for America, and vice versa. So communication was very delayed. It caused like 1 to 2 delay times. And some implications would be that the initial surveyors' parents had some sort of confusion that they were not allowed to help the children with the survey, thus maybe resulting in the higher scores, along with it being only for iOS users. So for the high school population, it wasn't allowed for Android users. Thus, after the pre-diagnostic test, some of the people were not able to partake in the playing of the game itself. And the multiple choice nature of the survey along with the game could also cause a skew, as some people can just guess and get it right. So my solution proposes that there should be a bigger and better game. Through both of the trial runs with the adolescent population group and the high school students, it was found that the adolescent group needed longer phrases and words, and the high school students needed it to be more visually stimulating and more engaging. Thus, the start of the real game, the Zolingo language adventure, awaits with better graphics and longer terms and phrases. Thank you.
Okay. So a couple questions. First of all, what criteria did you use to discriminate among the perspectives in order to reach your conclusion? So basically, how were you able to use filtering or other mechanisms as you were looking at your literature review and framing your question? How did you evaluate your sources?
So for my literature review, I had to focus on the significance of language and gamification, because the Zomi language is a little smaller, and so it would be harder to convince people why this matters. And so I had to really emphasize on why language itself matters and how it can be used in other things, not just gamification.
Okay. Question number 2. What was the most important source of information you found while conducting your research, and why was it so important?
The most important source that I found was the one about Duolingo, and how even the founder stated that there's an increase in competition, and someone as successful with 500 million users, if they state that, then for someone who's just creating it with not with a whole graphic team and linguistic professionalists. I think it's important to understand that it would be a little hard.
Okay, last question. Thinking back to your original curiosity that led you to this inquiry or research, what other area of inquiry might have the same curiosity have led you, or what other areas could you have gone with your research instead of going to the gamification?
I think there are many ways the problem with dying languages can be addressed, not just through gamification. And so one of the ways could be like through entertainment, through videos, such as cartoons, or through children's educational books. And maybe I could have created another type of creation paper in that area as well.
And the final question, and again, it's not here. What role did your mentor play in your research, and what did you learn from them?
My mentor, she is a AP computer science teacher, and she kind of helped me understand what goes inside of the game and how it codes and how it functions. And so I got to see how coding was a bunch of what if statements leading to the solution, and the solution depending on what the participants pick.
Congratulations, you're done.